The 2023 draft is done, it's finally over, which means we are officially into the 2024 draft cycle. So I thought I'd put out a way too early mock draft. Now, a lot of things can and will change, so this is just a fun little exercise to help get familiar with some of the top prospects in this year's draft. And as far as the draft order goes, I just took the order from PFF Mock Draft Simulator, so if you don't like where your team's picking, take it up with them, not me. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so the only trade I'm going to do in this draft is I'm going to have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving up from 3 to 1, just because the Cardinals don't need a quarterback, and most likely a quarterback's going to go number 1, whether that's Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, maybe Quinn Ewers. But there's no way a quarterback's not going 1 in this draft class with so many good quarterbacks. So that's the only trade I'm going to do just to keep things semi-realistic. So with that being said, with the number 1 pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are taking Caleb Williams, quarterback from USC. Now, I don't think Baker Mayfield's the answer in Tampa Bay. And if you're drafting, at least here, 3rd overall and trending up to the number 1 pick, you're getting a quarterback. You're getting the best quarterback that we've seen probably since Trevor Lawrence, I would say. I would say Caleb Williams is better than Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis. He's the most comparable quarterback to Patrick Mahomes since Patrick Mahomes. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Patrick Mahomes when he gets to the league, but the play style he plays with just looks like Patrick Mahomes. They're similar size. The way that they just like throw the ball, their gunslinger mentality, it's just they look the same almost. Like the throwing angles, the sidearm throws are just incredible angles, the highlight plays. They both look similar. Now, Caleb Williams is really good at maneuvering the pocket and scrambling when he needs to scramble. He's a sneaky athletic quarterback. Now, I don't know if they'll be able to run like designated run plays for him in the NFL, like a Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields. But if he needs to escape pressure and make a play with his feet, he can definitely do that. Now, the one thing I'm worried about with Caleb Williams is if his gunslinger mentality is going to get him in trouble in the NFL. Now, obviously, with Patrick Mahomes, it didn't get him in trouble, and it almost never gets him in trouble. But we've seen with other quarterbacks that just doesn't work out when they just go for the highlight plays, be the hero. So that's the only thing I'm a little worried about with Caleb Williams. But I would put money on it that he's going to figure it out in the NFL and be most likely a top 5 quarterback within the next 2 years. Moving on to number 2, I have the Arizona Cardinals taking Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver from Ohio State. And whether DeAndre Hopkins is gone by the time this happens or not, Marvin Harrison is probably going to be the number 1 guy on that team. He just has incredible route running abilities for his size. He's able to just go up and pluck the ball out of the air. And he has just an incredible sense of knowing where he is on the field and being able to get that toe down. Because in college, just 1 foot. And there's just so many instances where he just miraculously gets his foot in bounds somehow. He's also pretty athletic for his size. He's about 6'4", 205 pounds, and he can beat you deep with his speed. Now, I wouldn't say he's the best after the catch, like make you miss type of player, but everything else is completely elite. I mean, the way he gets in and out of his breaks, the way he's able to catch the ball, go up over defenders and moss defenders. Like, he has potential to be just as good as his father, Marvin Harrison. I know that's a bold claim, but he's definitely a blue chip, a generational wide receiver. And now at number 3, we have the Arizona Cardinals taking Jared Verse, edge rusher from Florida State. And you probably have heard of Jared Verse before because he was supposed to come out last year in the 2023 class, but he decided to take it back 1 more year with Florida State. And the Cardinals don't really have that edge presence, and I think Jared Verse can definitely help them out in that area. He has one of the best bull rushes in the country right now, and he's able to turn that power into speed and beat people around the edge too. He's just got a super high motor. He plays till the whistle's blown. Now, the one thing that I am worried about with him, though, is if his playstyle can keep up in the NFL, because he's only 250 pounds, surprisingly. He plays a lot stronger than that for sure, but I'm just afraid if he goes against bigger, stronger tackles in the NFL, that his playstyle and his power bull rushes aren't going to work. So I would love to see him just bulk up to maybe 260, just so he can continue to play with that playstyle that he loves to play with. Now moving on to number 4, I have the Colts taking Joe Alt, tackle from Notre Dame. And the Colts offensive line kind of took a step back last year. So I think bringing in Joe Alt, one of the best tackles probably in the last few years. I know I've said that a lot, but this draft class is just insane. So I think Joe Alt could definitely give a boost to that Colts offensive line. He's just a very technically sound tackle, and he didn't allow any sacks last year and only allowed 8 pressures. He's also a pretty good athlete, especially laterally, and he's one of the meaner run blockers in the class. Now, he can sometimes struggle to find leverage due to being 6'7", which a lot of guys do at that size. And he also has to develop that like grown man strength. I don't think he has that strength yet to be able to be that outside tackle, but I think that'll come with time. And then I do think he needs to work on his pass pro technique a bit, but he isn't bad by any means. I think he had like a 81 or 82 PFF grade for pass blocking, so not bad by any means, but compared to his run blocking, it is lacking a bit. And now moving on to number 5, I have the Washington Commanders taking Drake Maye, quarterback from North Carolina. If this does happen, that probably means that this North Carolina quarterback is going to take over the duties of another North Carolina quarterback in Sam Howell. The only difference is this North Carolina quarterback is very, very good. I've seen a lot of people comparing him to like a great value version of Aaron Rodgers. And even a great value version of Aaron Rodgers is still a very good quarterback. Now, like Caleb Williams, Drake Maye is also a pretty sneaky athlete. The one thing with him, though, is that he takes a lot of big hits. I think he just tries to do too much. I mean, you see him diving for first downs. I can see diving for a touchdown or maybe diving for a first down if it's like third down. But you'll see him diving on like 1st and 10 plays trying to get that first down. And you do not want your franchise quarterback doing that. So I hope that he kind of takes that out of his game once he gets to the NFL. But other than that, he's a really good processor. I do think sometimes he sees ghost where like he'll just escape the pocket when he doesn't need to quite yet. Because I think he trusts his legs a lot. But when there's throws to be made, you need to make those throws. And sometimes I don't think he does that as much as he needs to. But I think he's definitely in the running to be the number 1 quarterback taken this year. I think it's a lot closer than what people actually think. So it's pretty nice to have 2 really, really good quarterbacks that are probably both better or going to be better than Bryce Young and CJ Stroud from last class. But it could be close. I'm not sure. And now at number 6, I have the Green Bay Packers taking Olu Fashanu, tackle from Penn State. And just like Jared Verse, Olu Fashanu could have came out last year and probably should have, because I think he would have been a top 10 to 15 pick in the first round. But he decided to go back to Penn State for one more year and probably improve his draft stock a bit. Like I have him going number 6 here to the Packers. And I think he could eventually be that David Bakhtiari replacement. He's just got a really good, strong base, and he's able to set that anchor really nicely. He's also really good in pass pro, allowing 0 sacks, just like Joe Alt, and he only allowed 7 pressures. He also has a pretty good kick set. He's disciplined, didn't allow any penalties. He's a mean run blocker, although I think he needs to improve in his run blocking technique. So I think he's a mean run blocker, but not a technically sound run blocker quite yet. I just think he's a bit of a lunger, and he ends up on the ground more often than you'd like. Coming in at number 7, I have probably one of the first surprises of this mock draft, with the Raiders taking Kalen King, cornerback from Penn State. A lot of people have another cornerback as their number 1 corner going off the board in these mock drafts, but I really like Kalen King. I think he's really good athletically. He has really good makeup speed, although I feel like he has had to use that makeup speed a lot more than you'd like to see. I think he lets guys get past him a bit too much, and he tries to rely on that makeup speed to make up for the plays, and sometimes he's just not able to. But he has really good length, speed, quickness. He's really good at mirroring routes and following guys in man coverage. But I do think he could be a little bit more physical both during the route and when tackling. He kind of does that thing like all cornerbacks do where they just dive at the guy's legs and hope that he goes down, and sometimes he just doesn't go down. Another thing is that he can be a little too aggressive during the route and draw some penalties, but I'd rather my cornerbacks be physical than not physical enough. So I think Kalen King can definitely help the Raiders out in the cornerback room, because right now they don't have much. What do they have, like Duke Shelley, Nate Hobbs? Yeah, they need cornerback help badly, and I think Kalen King could definitely help them out. At number 8, I have the Tennessee Titans taking edge rusher Dallas Turner from Alabama, and the Titans just need more help on the edge. They have Jeffrey Simmons on the inside, but they don't really have that outside guy that's able to get to the quarterback consistently. And while Dallas Turner can help them, he himself wasn't too consistent production-wise last season. He had a few bright spots, and he showed a lot of potential and upside, but he didn't really have that production that you'd like to see. Now, I'm projecting that he'll have that this season now that Will Anderson is gone, and that's why I have him going number 8 here to the Titans. Moving on here to number 9, I have the Los Angeles Rams taking Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback from Alabama. And by the way, great name, but I think that the Rams are going to look to find their Jalen Ramsey replacement, and Kool-Aid McKinstry can be that for sure. He's a pretty physical press man corner that's just super sticky during the route, and he flashes really good ball skills, although he only had 1 interception, but he had a bunch of pass breakups, and he just showed that he has potential to become that ball hawk. Now, just like Kalen King, he isn't a very physical tackler. He does the same thing where he just dives at guys' legs. And then he also seemed a little clueless in zone coverages at times, but it was very few and far between, so I don't think that's a big problem, or I don't think it's going to be a problem that continues, but it is something to look out for. Now, number 10, the Bears have back-to-back picks here, and with their first pick, I got them going JT Tuimoloau, edge rusher from Ohio State. And if you haven't seen JT Tuimoloau's game against Penn State, please look that up. He had an incredible game, probably the best game from an edge rusher I've seen ever. Off the top of my head, I want to say that he had, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks, a touchdown, a forced fumble. It was just all game. He was all over the field, making impact after impact after impact. Now, the only thing is that was one of the only games where he showed that potential and that upside. All the other games, he kind of disappeared some, and he might have been overshadowed by the other talent on the Ohio State defensive line because they had a lot last year. But I just want to see him continue being more consistent rather than just showing really, really big upside in one game and then not so much the other game. But I'm banking on him to be more of that consistent edge rusher, and that's why I have him going number 10 to the Chicago Bears. And now with the Bears' second pick, I have them taking Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia. And Brock Bowers isn't so much a tight end as he is a big slot receiver because he's just extremely athletic, especially if you want to classify him as a tight end. He's probably the best tight end prospect we've seen since Kyle Pitts. Now, I wouldn't say he's the athlete that Kyle Pitts was, but talent-wise, he's definitely up there with him. Georgia likes to run him on end arounds, and he's able to score off of those, so you have to be pretty athletic to be able to do that in general. And he's also really good at attacking the catch point, and he has really good body control and is able to get his feet down inbounds. Now, the one thing with him, though, is that if he is going to be more of that tight end position, he is going to have to bulk up a bit because he is a little small for that size. I don't think he has the blocking abilities to be that inline tight end full time at least. But really, he's just an offensive weapon, and any team, especially someone like the Bears who are looking for more receiving talent for Justin Fields, would love him. I got the Patriots taking J.C. Latham, offensive tackle from Alabama, here at 12. And I like Latham a lot. He has good, strong hands and pass protection. He plays hard and has a mean streak to him too, which NFL teams love. But the only thing with him, though, is that he had 11 penalties in 2022, so I would like to see him clean that up a bit. At number 13, I have another surprise, most likely. I have Troy Franklin, wide receiver from Oregon, and I just really like Franklin, so this is me just making it known that I really like Troy Franklin. He is a bit on the skinnier side at like 175, 6'3", 175. But he's just so good at contested catches and winning those 50-50 balls, especially deep. And he also has the speed to beat you deep as well. The only thing you worry about with him, though, is with him being 175 pounds, if he's going to get knocked off his routes at times. It didn't really show up that much in tape that I've seen so far, but in the NFL, guys are definitely going to get a little bit more physical with him and could possibly knock him off his routes. Now at number 14, I have my New York Giants taking Jerzon Newton, interior defensive lineman from Illinois. And now, I've already seen Jerzon Newton getting a lot of hype so far, and with the Giants most likely going to be losing Leonard Williams around this time, so I think slotting in Jerzon Newton to go alongside Dexter Lawrence would be a great idea. And Newton is just a really athletic guy. His straight line speed is insane. He'll probably run a crazy 40 time when the combine comes around. But I think it'll just be a perfect fit for the Giants. Now, number 15, I have the Broncos taking Mason Smith, defensive lineman from LSU. Now, Mason Smith got injured last season pretty early on, so there isn't much tape of him from last year, so you got to go back to his 2021 tape. But he just shows a lot of potential, especially for being as young as he was back then. So I expect him to have a huge breakout season and kind of solidify him as one of the top defensive linemen in the class. And I think the Broncos need that, especially losing Bradley Chubb last year. And now at number 16, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking Jeremiah Trotter Jr., son of Jeremiah Trotter, who played for the Eagles. And I just think this would be a perfect landing spot for Jeremiah Trotter, just because he'd be able to learn alongside Bobby Wagner for a year. And that's always a good thing when you can sit behind an all-time great and just learn from him for a year. And now at number 17, I have the Steelers taking offensive tackle Kingsley Suamataia from BYU. And I know they took a tackle last year in the draft, but if they want Najee Harris to be able to be that bell cow running back, they're going to have a really good top 5 offensive line, and I still don't think they're there yet. So again, a solid tackle in Kingsley Suamataia would be perfect for them. Now our number 18, this is where I have quarterback Quinn Ewers going. Now Quinn Ewers was one of the most highly touted high school quarterbacks ever, And with Kirk Cousins aging and probably not being able to win you a Super Bowl now that he's this old, I think getting Justin Jefferson, a really good quarterback, would help him out a lot and make him probably want to stay. And although I don't think Quinn Ewers is amazing, I think he was really inaccurate last year. But I think he showed potential, especially in that Alabama game before he got injured. And so I expect him to have a really good season this year, especially with that quarterback competition with Arch Manning in there. So I think he's going to have a bounce back season and be one of the top 3 to 4 quarterbacks in this class. And I think the Vikings could definitely use his services. At number 19, I have the Houston Texans taking wide receiver Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. And I know what you guys are thinking. You're probably thinking, why is he going this late? He's most likely going to be a slot wide receiver. And like we've seen in the past few draft classes, slot receivers just don't go very high. We've seen guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba go at, pick 20? And he was the first receiver taken off the board. We just don't see those slot wide receivers or slot cornerbacks taken very high in the draft. And it's just the way it goes. I think he's definitely better than being picked at number 19. If I was making a big board right now, I would assume he would probably be top 10 to 15 at least. But just in a mock draft, slot receivers don't go very high. But the Texans, they need receiver help, whether it's slot, outside, anything. Because right now, all they really have is John Mechie, and he hasn't even played as of now because he was dealing with the leukemia, which the doctors did cure, so that's a good thing. But they don't really have any proven talent at receiver. And I think Emeka Egbuka could really help them out. Now at number 20, I had the Saints taking edge rusher Laiatu Latu from UCLA. And he just had really good production last year. I think he was up there at the top when it came to pressures. I think he had about 10 sacks. So he's got the production to go top 20. But I haven't seen many people mocking him this high. So maybe I'm a little too high on him. But the Saints need edge rusher help. They don't really have anyone there right now. They have Brian Brzee on the inside. But on the edge, they don't really have much. At number 21, I have the Miami Dolphins taking A.D. Mitchell, wide receiver from Texas. Now he just transferred from Georgia to Texas. And he's just a big receiver. And I think he would complement the 2 speedsters and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle a lot, and he could be that big red zone target. And I just think it's a match made in heaven for him. At number 22, I have the Baltimore Ravens taking Cedric Van Pran, interior offensive lineman from Georgia. And the Ravens just need help on the offensive line, especially on the interior. So I got them taking one of the better interior prospects I've seen so far. I haven't done much scouting when it came to interior offensive linemen. I've seen Cedric Van Pran and Connor Colby. And I just decided to slot in Cedric Van Pran here just because I like him a little bit better. At 23, I have the Chargers taking Cameron Kinchens, safety from Miami. I just think he would make a deadly duo between him and Derwin James. Cameron Kinchens is more of that ball hawk, and then Derwin James is more of that physical box safety. I just think that would be a fun duo to see. Cameron Kinchens had, I believe, 6 interceptions last year. Now, 3 of them did come against Georgia Tech, but he just has really good ball skills. At number 24, I have the Cowboys taking Javon Bullard, cornerback from Georgia. Now, Bullard is more of the slot corner / safety, and like we've seen, slot corners and safeties do not go high in the draft. Brian Branch, who I think is probably better than Javon Bullard, and he went in the 2nd round. Now, I got Bullard here at 24 just because I want to talk about him. I like him a lot. He's super instinctive in zone coverage and has a nice blend of length, speed, and quickness. Now, I do think he plays a little too timid, and I would like to see him be a little bit more physical and more aggressive. But that may be hard for him to do because he is a bit undersized at 5'11", 180 pounds. At 25, I have the Packers going Xavier Worthy, wide receiver from Texas. And I know the Packers never go wide receiver in the 1st round, and we always keep mocking receivers in the 1st round to them. But I think this is going to be the year. I really do. And someone like Xavier Worthy falling at 25 here, I think the Packers would be dumb not to take him. He's more of that speedster, and you always know at least one speedy receiver is going to go in the 1st round in each draft class. And Xavier Worthy is probably going to be that guy. He's just got blazing speed. He's able to take the top off of a defense, and he is pretty small and could get bullied by more physical corners. Coming in at number 26, I have the Lions going Chop Robinson, edge rusher from Penn State. And the Lions just need more edge help or defensive line help in general because all they have now really is Aiden Hutchinson. And so you need that counterpart to Aiden Hutchinson so Aiden Hutchinson doesn't just get double teamed every single play. And I like Chop Robinson a lot, and I think he could potentially be a 1st round player, so that's why I'm sticking him here at 26. At number 27, I have the Jaguars going Blake Fisher, offensive tackle from Notre Dame. And I'm just not a believer in Walker Little, so why not get the best right tackle in the class in Blake Fisher? And at number 28, I have the Bills going Cooper DeJean, cornerback from Iowa. And again, just like last class, we have a rare white cornerback from Iowa. Now, DeJean isn't the most athletic guy in the world, and I don't think he would be able to play man coverage in the NFL, but he's a really good instinctive zone player, and if worse comes to worse, he would be a really good safety for a team. At number 29, I have the Eagles going Tommy Eichenberg, linebacker from Ohio State, and I think he could go really nicely with Nakobe Dean. And I couldn't find any Georgia defensive players that were worth taking at 29 because, trust me, I was trying to get a Georgia defensive player. But Tommy Eichenberg is just a do-it-all linebacker. He's just all over the field. He's really good at tackling. He doesn't miss many tackles. And he's just a do-good linebacker. At number 30, I have the 49ers going Malik Neighbors, wide receiver from LSU. And I think Malik Neighbors was the best receiver on that LSU team last year, which had Kayshon Boutte on there, who was at one point considered one of the top prospects in his draft class. But Malik Neighbors just outshined him in almost every way. And I think now that Kayshon Boutte is gone, Malik Neighbors is going to be able to really shine there at LSU. And I think that the 49ers could just add another weapon into that offense to go alongside Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey, and just make life easy on whichever quarterback actually is playing, whether that's Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold. Now at number 31, I wanted to fit in a running back, so I took Travion Henderson, running back from Ohio State, and the Bengals could probably use a running back with the Joe Mixon controversy. And Travion Henderson is a lot like Saquon Barkley, where they're just a big play waiting to happen, but I think Travion Henderson's a bit better in between the tackles. Now, he did struggle last season, but if you take a look back at his 2021 freshman tape, it is insane. And in 2022, he was suffering from a foot injury basically all season. So I don't really take much stock into him struggling last season. And I expect him to have a bounce back season and be considered the best running back from the class. And to round things out, I have the Kansas City Chiefs picking Braylon Trice, edge rusher from Washington. And he was just a really productive guy last year. And I expect him to keep that production. And the Chiefs could just use edge help. They have George Karlaftis and Felix Anudike-Uzomah, but edge depth is never a bad thing, and I wanted to fit Braylon Trice on here just because I think he deserves a spot in the first round. So yeah, that's the draft. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you disagree with any of the picks down in the comments. And if you like the video, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. It helps the channel out a lot. And as always, until next time, thanks for watching.